Today, we're going to be talking about the absolute best hour of conversation I've ever seen Bill Burr have with anyone. And that's when he invited Jon Lovitz onto his podcast in February of 2024. There have been a number of people who said Bill Burr is one of the toughest people to interview on their podcast. His Boston banter and willingness to double down just catches a lot of people off guard, throws them off their center. Everyone has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. So today we're going to compare some interviews where people got punched in the mouth and didn't know how to react, and compare it to when Jon Lovitz came on Bill Burr's podcast and punched him in the mouth right back, and we enjoyed every single minute of it. Through this Jon Lovitz interview, you can just see that he's actually just a barbed wired teddy bear looking for some fun interactions. The video has like 1.2 million views right now. It should have tens of millions. It's just that good. I'd first like to say that this episode is executive produced by the one and only Christopher Hart. If it wasn't for Christopher's big baller support, I'd probably teach myself coding, and then probably hacking, then go to DEF CON, learn about some RFID type hack stuff, and then probably figure out one of those like slot machine ones where you can wave it over a slot machine and it thinks you inserted money but you didn't, and just rinse and repeat until I hit jackpots. And I'll just do that until I get backed off from every casino. But thanks to Christopher's big baller support, I don't have to do that. And if you want to be a big baller supporter of the show, you can go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description below. Comment, like, subscribe. It all helps the algorithm. Welcome to Catching You Up with
Nadav. It's COVID.
So there are two interviews that kind of come to mind when I think of difficult Bill Burr interviews. And that's when Bill went on H3 with Ethan Klein, and when he went on this past weekend with Theo. Now, the thing to remember about Bill Burr is that he's not afraid to take on an entire city of Philly when he has stage time and they're not reacting to him the way that he's expecting.
You know what's funny? I'm cooking my brain talking about nothing. I'm just walking around like, yeah, I just got a cheeseburger. Oh, fuck all you people. You know what, you fucking losers? I hope you all fucking die, and I hope the fucking Eagles never win the Super Bowl. Go fuck yourselves.
Bill had witnessed them disrespect some of comedy's greatest comedians, just booing people off stage. Killers are getting booed off stage, and Bill Burr has had enough of it.
Hey, throw out some topics. Let's talk about heart disease, something you're all gonna fucking die of, and I'm gonna laugh at your fucking funerals. It's gonna be great.
He realized they were a drunken dogshit crowd, and he just starts treating them like that, and they even began to start liking it.
The terrorists will never bomb you people because you're fucking worthless and no one cares about you. You are this high above New Orleans. No one gives a shit. FEMA would never show up for you fucking assholes. 11 minutes left.
Bill just keeps emphasizing that he is doing all of the time that he has left and using it to shit on the worst possible crowd he's ever encountered.
Fucking Rocky is your hero. The whole pride of your city is built around a fucking guy who doesn't even exist. You got fucking Joe Frazier is from there, but he's black, so you can't fucking deal with him. So you make a fucking statue for some 3-foot fucking Italian, you stupid Philly cheese-eating fucking jackasses. And
I remember that being a huge pop for Bill. He had already had some stand-up specials out and has had multiple appearances on Chappelle's show, but I remember that really put him on the map for me.
7 minutes left. 7 motherfucking minutes left. And I'm doing all fucking 7. You fucking assholes. Fucking standing backstage for 3 hours to get booed by this GED fucking stupid ass piece of shit fucking crowd.
But here's what I've noticed about Bill Burr. He's not there to be a good, gracious podcast guest or an incredible podcast host. He's there looking for fun. And I'll give credit where credit's due. There are some people that take it on the chin and just roll with it and know that he doesn't mean any harm.
Therapy, yeah, I went to therapy.
You went, but you stopped going?
Well, after a while, it's just like, well, you know, I've told all the bad stories, and I'm always going to have problems. This is just becoming like this, you know, lifelong car payment now to have to come over here. Be like, well, this happened.
Yeah.
My garage door was locked, and I just felt like a pussy after a while. Like,
yeah, you're full of anger. Because you flog yourself for being vulnerable.
Oh, would you stop it? Like you have some sort of psychology degree?
10 years in therapy.
So what? I've watched football for 40 years. I shouldn't be somebody's coach.
I agree.
I'm the worst, huh?
The worst.
I know.
And you think you're a fucking shrink right now? I mean, let the guy be angry
I'm
sometimes.
trying to let him. I'm letting him. I'm enjoying him.
I want to ask Bill something. Is this funny to you?
All these appearances, to me, seem like Bill just thought he was in a room with people that either knew him or understood his personality or his sense of humor and just didn't, and were blindsided by all the remarks and rebuttals that he had for everything. And I noticed this type of behavior coming from a lot of East Coast old school comics. Pretty much any comic that was a regular on the Opie and Anthony show operated the way Bill Burr currently operates. On the surface, it all seems incredibly disrespectful. But when you look a little deeper, you realize that that's actually how they show respect for each other, as fucked up as it is. They're doing it to endear themselves to the other people, and boy, do these comics take chances with that. Like, here's an example of Louis C.K. and Patrice O'Neal just taking shots at each other at Opie and Anthony and absolutely loving it.
My Hungarian grandfather was Jewish, and he left Hungary because they were killing the Jews.
Yeah.
And he couldn't come to the United States because there was too many Jews going.
They weren't letting him. They turned boats away.
So he went to Mexico.
Hey, I do know where the term came from, by the way.
Ah, derogatory term for Jewish people? Where'd that come from?
I do know where that came from.
Where?
It is when people used to come over on the, in the ships on Ellis Island,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people couldn't write English. So they used to make their mark, and the Jews' mark was a circle. And the circle is called keikel. So that's what they were just shortening it to. The guys coming in and say, here's another once they seen the circle.
You know where came from originally? There was some black guy being in so they called him
Jesus.
He was being a real and somebody said, what a and that's where it started.
It just was a feeling.
And that's how those guys from that class of comedians operated. A lot of them have softened up, but they could bring that edge back at the snap of your fingers. Bill just never really let up on it. Bill essentially shows up to have fun, and these days few can just match that energy, or are extremely confused by it. Like in H3, Ethan Klein had a whole bunch of questions prepped that Bill just wasn't interested in answering. And that threw Ethan off immediately and changed the vibe of the interview.
Oh, it seems like you're in love with your daughter, hearing you talk about her on the podcast.
Jesus Christ. Well, you're pretty perceptive. It's like you care about your own child.
Listen, more than that, okay? Because again, you're this character. You gush over your daughter. Not everyone gushes. Did your dad gush over you?
I mean, I was too little. Yeah, no, my dad actually at work did. At work, that's when I learned, like, oh my God, yeah, he really likes us. But when he came home, yeah, he was cracking the whip. How's your bed, mate? You do your studies? Well, why not? You know, that shit. And he also had a zillion kids, so I mean, yeah.
Really? How many siblings do you have?
I don't know, dude. The internet's too fucking weird to give out all that information.
Oh, you don't even want to say how many because you're afraid that it will
yeah, by all
compromise
means,
your
keep talking
privacy.
about it. Is there anybody you can cut this out? I'm honest, dude. Like,
seriously?
Yeah, no, dude. There's fucking lunatics out there.
Then Bill went on to this past weekend with Theo Von and just kind of did the same thing.
Burnt out. You know, I've been on the same tour for this hour for almost over a year now.
Dude, bands tour for like 4 years and then fucking go right back in the studio, make another one, and keep going. You got to toughen up, man.
Yeah, you're right, huh?
You know?
What do I do, you think?
Camouflage hat, looking like a fucking backwoods guy, all tough and shit. You can't handle doing your hour again? I mean, come on, man. Suck it up.
Bill's just kind of rejecting bad questions that he doesn't want to answer or to yes and like, nah, give me something else.
That's one of the reasons why I think acting is real scary to me, because I really I guess I kind of treasure the things that I do comedically. Right. And so I just don't want to leave him at the whims of some other, some guy who's been up for 4 days.
Did you just say you treasure what you do? Like literally your act?
Bit, yeah.
You're worried that some big Hollywood director... You can't take your comedic skills and say what the fuck somebody else wrote. You treasure your act so much. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
The way that I present it, man. The way that I present it. If I give somebody something, if I do something funny, it's like, yeah, I'm going to leave it up to some fucktard that I feel like doesn't know how to best.
This dude is going to be such a nightmare when he makes it.
I love
I treasure these jokes.
And here's where I sympathize with Theo and anyone else that's had a rough podcast with Bill. Theo is a good comic and should be able to rib back. But I think Bill carries a reverence with him that a lot of younger comedians are kind of afraid to test. And yeah, some parts of these podcasts were a little uncomfortable, but it's because the podcast host didn't know how to react to the energy that they were being thrown.
I bet they've had, it seemed like, has that place been around for a couple hundred years?
Since the mid 1800s.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, some guy, it was
Probably
Prince
Napoleon?
Albert. No, Prince Albert. Dude, I love how you just fucking reaching for shit here. It's a couple thousand years. It's been around. Napoleon. That's an old guy.
Well,
Ethan and Theo even addressed their experiences in interviewing Bill Burr when Theo had Ethan on this past weekend.
We're talking about, welcome to the Bill Burr recovery group.
Yeah, I went into therapy after that episode. I'm not
really?
I'm not even being kidding. I mean, I was having a depressive episode for a long time.
Right.
And I had these antidepressants next to my bed for a long time. And
you were taking them?
No, I hadn't decided to take them yet. I was hesitant.
Yeah.
And after that episode with Bill Burr, I came home, and that's when I started taking antidepressants, and I went to therapy.
Wow.
It was soul crushing. And I had him on a second time somewhat recently, and it went great.
It was one of the first things that they talked about, and it clearly affected Ethan, but I think Theo just kind of understood that, oh yeah, this was the person that I don't really talk to.
I feel like most guests, 99% of guests, they won't take the opportunity if they see you like are uncomfortable or you goofed up or maybe you said, like when he sees an opening, he like attacks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's the same way as comedy.
Which is
really
fine. That's why he's so good at comedy,
Right.
but like he will expose any chinks in your armor.
Yeah.
It's because for him, that's comedy, right?
Right.
And
For
he's
him,
going to
that's
make
comedy,
a funny
yeah.
moment out of it.
Right.
But for me, I'm like, oh shit, dude, my fragile ego.
And yeah, for me, I think I'm good to rip on people if that's what we're doing. I think I never
Right.
knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
I think it's like I
Yeah,
brought roller
yeah.
skates to a fucking sword fight.
That's funny.
You know?
Yeah.
And what I would call these situations is just a mismatch of energy. Just someone that was caring too much being paired with Bill Burr not caring enough. But I'll tell you where it was a perfect match of energy, and I'll tell you that this person was not on my bingo card of people that would mesh well with Bill Burr, and that's Jon Lovitz.
Bill Burr likes it in the butt. Gently, when you squeeze his left nut.
I've always known that Jon Lovitz was hilarious, but not to this extent.
Texting you.
Oh, here we go.
Annoying things about the Gaza Strip.
Well, let's just call this episode The Jew and the Nazi. Let's just get down to it. We do it in text. We've never done it face to face.
I'm just presenting.
And I told you I'm bringing my howitzer.
Oh, God.
Boom. Go ahead.
He came on to Bill Burr's Thursday podcast right before Friday of the Monday morning podcast and was just ready to throw down. It's a type of banter that only two comics from the same era can actually kind of exchange as well as they did.
Your thoughts of me is that I'm horrible. And I know you joke around about it a lot, but I know that that's coming from someplace.
Well, deep down, you are horrible. This is your whole act. Albert Einstein's a genius. What do you think, Bill? I don't. Is he? Is really? He couldn't even get a decent haircut. What's that?
Just listen to how Bill introduces Jon Lovitz on the podcast.
Whenever you see video of this podcast, you know, well, gee whiz, old Freckles must have a special guest. Well, unfortunately, that is not true today. My guest today is astoundingly mediocre. I've actually been ducking this interview, and he just kept calling me, hacking up, and I just decided, like, you know what, let's just fucking get this over with. It's a rainy, gloomy day. What more perfect weather to welcome my wonderful guest, Mr. Jon Lovitz, everybody. Jon Lovitz. Jon, wake up, buddy. Hey, there we go.
Gotta get some of this 5-hour energy to stay awake for this thing.
It's just bald jokes versus fat jokes.
You know, Jon, whenever you lash out at me like that, I just know it's all self-loathing. Okay? And you can come in here with your Tony Curtis haircut,
and act like you're just the bee's knees, and I just don't buy it. Tony Curtis, there's another
that
guy.
what this is
There's another
about?
guy that went to Nordstrom's.
That I have hair and you don't? Like it's my fault.
No, there's just something about the way
I didn't
it's...
give you my genes. I have nothing to do with it. Look,
Well, you've been keep looking at your face. You're aging naturally.
They go, the camera adds 15 pounds. Your camera is adding like 100.
No.
Off camera, doesn't even exist.
You know, there's a lot of women that are into that. It's a fetish. They call them pelicanos. Your face has its own neck pillow. It must be nice when you get on a plane.
Well, my grandmother
when you go like
had
this,
this.
your neck fat just kind of catches you.
Very surface level stuff that doesn't really affect them, but they start getting deeper and deeper, and it gets funnier and funnier.
I thought this was going to be a dialogue.
All right, go ahead.
No,
What do you want to
go
talk
ahead. It's
about?
not how you start a conversation. How long have you lived alone? That's why you have a dog. The thing can't fucking interrupt you. Do you squeeze your dog? Sometimes a little too vigorously. When you have a bad set, you come home, you just fucking, you hear it yelps a little bit. And then you get this sense of power that you don't feel you have in the rest of your life. Is that what happens? And then you go into the bathroom and there's no more conditioner left and you blame the dog.
And here's what's most interesting to me, is that the behavior that we're seeing from Bill is really not that different from the behavior we've seen him conduct himself in all these other train wreck interviews. It's just this is the first time that the person on the opposite side of the table from him has matched this energy.
Go ahead.
Your dad's a dentist. Did he forget to teach you how to floss? Jesus Christ. Your breath is so bad, my dog's throwing up, and he's sitting down there on the floor. And your turn.
I love the "and your turn."
And scene.
I heard your dad didn't die of natural causes. I heard he saw your act and went home and himself. So he wouldn't have to see the second show. And back to you.
Jon Lovitz knows what's going on and is dishing it right back.
It's not my fault you went bald. I had nothing to do with it. Blame somebody else.
Listen, if you think your hair system is
Blame
fooling
your
anybody,
wife.
you've had that fucking receding hairline for 40 years and it hasn't moved. You took the back off of your hair off of your back and you stuck it on your head, and now you're sitting here acting like you're better than me. You're not. You're not.
I am.
Hey, ball don't lie. The ball don't lie.
Right. You can say that to yourself all day long. But the fact is, deep in your heart, we both know I am better than you.
And this is one of my favorite episodes of any podcast, not only of this last year, but probably the last few years. If you want to laugh at two friends just taking the piss out of each other, just put this pod on and listen to it with a loved one. And that concludes this episode of Catching You Up with
Nadav, it's COVID.
Just sharing one of my favorite things that if you watch this show, you should be aware of. Because I think if you watch this, you probably like to laugh. Just genuine appreciation for comedy. And that more often than not, that's more fun than shitting on something or complaining about something that you used to like that you don't like anymore. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone that you're seeing on screen right now. They are all producers of this show, and their names are immortalized on the screen for this episode. Without them, it'd be hard to continue doing this as consistently and as regularly as I do. And if you'd like to become a producer of the show, you can go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description below. Now would be a good time to remind you once again to comment, like, and subscribe. It all helps the algorithm. But more importantly, I'd like to remind you,
This is a totally unconfirmed news.
see you next week.